Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to ReZOO, the Zoo Review Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and today I am joined once again by my incredible co-host and fellow passionate zoo lover, the one and only Jodi McFarlane. Say hello, Jodi.
Hi, everyone.
Presented by Pangolin, the Conservation Podcast, this sister show promises to explore, appreciate, and highlight the fantastic conservation work of zoos from around the world, while also offering a perspective on the visitor experience.
Today we are talking about Fife Zoo, an exciting new zoo found right in the heart of Fife.
We are going to walk you through our zoo experience, tell you about some of our favourite species, and encourage you all to support this brand new animal adventure. So let's get started. And welcome back to the show. Thank you so much once again for joining me today, Jodi, to talk all about Fife Zoo. I wondered, just to get us started, as always, do you have any history with Fife Zoo? Had you ever been before we went? What were your kind of preconceived notions of Fife Zoo before we visited the other day?
So I had never been before, so I didn't really know what to expect much. I knew that it was quite a new zoo and quite a small zoo because of that. And I knew that they had had a fire in previous years, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. But yes, I was very much looking forward to seeing what they had to offer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was one of those things where I'd been once before. I'd been last year on my birthday. It was a very, very rainy birthday. So, oh no, it was very sunny. Sorry, it was a very sunny birthday, but it was during pandemic. That's why we went, because we needed a short kind of outdoor activity to do on a birthday that was kind of, yes, safe and outdoors. So it was a really good time to go. And it was, yeah, fantastic. So I'd been once before we visited together the other day. And yes, I loved it the last time, and I kind of loved it again this time. And I think what was good and interesting was last time we went during the summer. So it was all sorts. We saw pretty much everything. And then this time we went back, they'd added more new things. So yeah, it was nice to see a little bit of development and kind of change over the time, even within a few months since I'd been last time. So yes, it was kind of a. I'm glad I had been before this review as well, to kind of give us that little extra perspective of the development of it over time, which I think is actually, yeah, something really important to highlight before we get started. Is this is a brand new zoo. It started only a few years ago now in the heart of Fife, near kind of Cooper. And yeah, it's kind of, we've interviewed we've interviewed the owner, Mike, on one of our previous episodes of Pangolin. So if you want to learn more about how it started and things, you can go and listen to that. But yeah, it's this new kind of exciting zoo that started in the centre of Fife, and yeah, really kind of interesting project to be talking about today. And I would say for kind of a relatively new kind of thing, it has a good selection of species. It has a good kind of cafe. It has a nice gift shop. It has all sorts of like really important core kind of structural elements that make a zoo already in place that are really, really good and strong and important. I don't know, what was your kind of first impression when we arrived, Jodi? What was your kind of first thoughts of it when you got there?
Um, well, I guess going in, it is a little bit off the beaten track, so it's a little bit tricky to find. And then once you do, you go into the car park, and you've got in front of you the sort of entrance to Fife Zoo, which looks very nice. But then over to the side, you've got what kind of looks a bit like a building site, which might throw people off if they didn't know what to expect. But obviously, it's because they are still in the process of developing the zoo. So don't let that put you off, I would say. And yeah, then going in, like one of the first things we clocked was they had like a little wildlife pond just at the entrance, and a little bug hotel, which were nice little touches to have before you even got up to the reception. And then yeah, I guess we went into reception, and it's a little bit less obvious than maybe other zoos where you go in and there's clearly a big desk right in front of you. Because when you go in, it's kind of split between the cafe on your right and then the gift shop on your left, and then a member of staff will come and get you at the door and take you over to the desk at the gift shop to get you all sorted, and then you enter the zoo through the gift shop. So the layout is maybe not quite what you'd be used to. But yeah, I feel like first impressions was, but I suppose because of that, it was a bit unusual, so it was a bit exciting because you didn't really know what to expect.
Yes, I really liked it actually because it was kind of, yeah, it was while you just say it was kind of a little bit tricky to kind of find. It was one of those things where it's kind of because it's a zoo and they need lots of space. It's in the middle of the countryside, so there's a lot of like paths to get there. But when you do see it, there is a massive kind of um Fife Zoo sign that kind of pops up out of nowhere, and you're like, ah, perfect, there we go. And then of course, yes, when you go in, of course they've got the kind of development stuff going on, so there is some things there, but I wouldn't say it's overly like it doesn't take away from the first impression. I would say I think it's just kind of goes to show that oh, they are actually pushing forward and building new things, which is nice. And yes, of course, having the bug hotel and the pond, excellent first impressions. Um, when you go in as well, yeah, I would agree. It's kind of strange because normally, yes, you would just walk right up to a reception desk. But I think what's quite nice is that because you're kind of right there and the cafe's on one side, the gift shop's on the other, it's kind of like, yeah, it's nice, simple. Both things are right there. There's nice, clean toilets, which are very important for a zoo because often you go in and they're kind of they like you go in some places and you're like, there's clearly been hundreds of kids descend upon this toilet throughout the day and it's gross. Whereas these were nice and clean, which was nice.
I
Um,
know. I'm glad you mentioned
uh,
that because I was going to bring it up, and I thought, is this a stupid thing to bring up in the review? But no, because we're interested in all aspects of the visitor experience. And yeah, as you
exactly.
say, you kind of come to expect that toilets in places like these won't be the nicest because they're just busy. But yeah, certainly on the day we went, gold star for the toilets because they were clean and they were modern. And I can't believe this is like the first good point that we're talking about on this review, but people all have to use the toilets, so I guess it's an important point.
Mhm, mhm. Uh, yes, and actually, to turn the review onto something animal related, one of the first things that I noted is when you kind of walk in, there is of course the little mini tanks right at the very start, which was actually quite nice. And I imagine on a busy day it might be quite like hard to get a quite a good view at them because they are right as you walk in. But it's a nice first impression. When we went, was nice and quiet, so we had time to stop and look. There were snakes. I think it was hissing cockroaches, stick insects, all sorts of kind of, oh, there's some fish, like kind of smaller tanks, which give you kind of a nice first impression. You get to see some kind of smaller, quirkier things before you go in and see the kind of bigger animals. It's nice to have that first kind of little impression. As much as I kind of, I'm not a fan of hissing cockroaches and things, it was nice to kind of be able to see them and through glass and appreciate those kind of perhaps underappreciated or sometimes skimmed past animals. They're the first ones you see, which was really, really nice. I don't know. Did you have a favorite of those little ones?
Oh, I mean, I'm always going to love a fish tank, aren't I? I just think it was a really
Yeah.
nice little extra touch because otherwise that would have just been a kind of reception area, and you could easily have just left it as that space. And I thought that was quite a clever use of space, and also it's good because if you're hanging about waiting on people, who've nipped to the loo or who are looking in the shop, like you can go and look at that while you're waiting. So yeah, nice little,
Mhm.
nice little first impression there.
Yes, yes, I thought so. And yes, I guess once you get through that and you kind of turn left, go through the gift shop, you get all your tickets sorted, you're into the zoo. Your first impression of then is, of course, this big, kind of massive, round outdoor space, which when we walked in had some very active porcupines and meerkats, which was very nice. I think it's a strong opener, opening with something charismatic like meerkats, and then also to add the porcupines in there as well was a good kind of twist on that, like, oh, here's a classic cute animal. And not that porcupines aren't cute, but they're not necessarily something that would jump to your mind immediately if you thought cute animals, interesting animals. So it was nice to kind of highlight them as well. And I think we arrived at a really good time because every previous time I've seen porcupines, they've been asleep. They've been kind of chilled out, doing nothing. They'll maybe be eating, but sitting entirely still. When we walked in, these porcupines, we arrived quite early in the morning, so they were up and about. They'd just been fed, kind of having a munch on some things. It was very sweet to see them. And yes, I really loved them. I thought they were really interesting. I like how I was I knew, of course, porcupines, they have these kind of big spines for protection. What I did not realize is that along their head, it seemed like they can lift their own mohawks up, which I was like, that's a cool party trick if anything. Um so yeah, that was a really nice kind of first impression and first animal to see. And I don't know, did you have thoughts on that kind of space?
I mean, it was a good space. It was a decent size, and yeah, I just think it's a really clever one to put first, isn't it? Because a family favorite like the meerkats are always good, and because the animals being in there together and they were all quite active, kind of means that people are always going to see something when they first walk in, and people will generally spend quite a bit of time there. So I feel like it's a good first thing to have. And something I noted about that enclosure was that it had sort of glass viewing windows along the bottom of it so that children could see really easily as well. And that's actually something
Mhm.
I would say as a bonus for a lot of Fife Zoo was that a lot of the viewing areas were really sort of child friendly, which is I think good for a small zoo like that maybe has some smaller animals, because that's maybe the demographic that you're kind of getting for. So I thought that was quite well thought through.
Mhm. Yes, yes, definitely. I would agree 100%. It was really nice to see, and almost all of I think pretty much all of the kind of different animal spaces had that, so you could have lots of really good viewing spots. And it goes beyond kids, I think. If you were in a wheelchair or if you had someone who had accessibility issues and was kind of having to pull themselves up to kind of see things, it wouldn't be the most accessible good space. Whereas this, because they have those lower level kind of glass spaces, it's good for more than just kids. It's good for all sorts of people. It's good for if you want to take photos, you can get low, all sorts of different things, which was really, really nice and really appreciated. And yeah, I really, really loved it. It was really, really good. I'm just gonna keep saying that throughout the recording. Like really good. And I guess this is the kind of the first point where I noticed as we went around the theming that they have is really consistent, but they've picked it like even though they have African and South American animals so far, I think in the future they plan to expand to other different continents. But the theming that they've picked for this kind of initial area is really like strong because it kind of fits with the African kind of aesthetic and kind of this base camp kind of vibe, which is really nice. But it's not so removed from a kind of what could be considered kind of a South American aesthetic. Um, that it yeah, it's kind of I don't know. Do you know? Do you see? It's like it's a nice kind of generalized theme that works across multiple continents, multiple species. It's not so specific that it kind of looks odd with armadillo in it opposed to a porcupine opposed to whatever it is. So that was kind of the first time I noticed that. And yeah, really, really nice. I really liked the kind of general aesthetic. And this was the first point I kind of noticed that at. I don't know, kind of moving on from there, we kind of just keep kind of moving around. There was the DeBraz's monkeys. Um, there was a little baby one, which was very, very cute. Uh, Loved the signage, which told me that they are sometimes known as swamp monkeys, which I found to be relatable content. Uh, so, what did you think of these little guys? They were very sweet, I think. Very, very sweet. Very, very
Yeah,
sweet.
I think that enclosure was good because they had their indoor space. I think it only had one window and it was kind of quite narrow, so it might be tricky to see them on a busy day if they were inside, because you
Mhm.
would have to rely on people kind of knowing how to queue, which the general public aren't always the best at. But they also had an outdoor space that was quite nice as well, and we got to see them kind of indoors and outdoors. And yeah, that little
Mhm.
outdoor addition I think was a nice feature of that enclosure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was a nice kind of again, the design was really cool. I liked how it kind of had this kind of tent-like space. Not lots of area to climb. It also looked like, and I think you can kind of they have two indoor spaces. It looks like, or there's an indoor space that's kind of away from the glass, so that like they can, if they wanted to be away, they can move themselves back, which I really appreciated. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of a nice touch. Um, Speaking of really kind of cool enclosures and spaces, something that I think has just sprung back into my mind is after this we turned and we looked at the tortoises which had just been fed, and the tortoise space was really interesting and fun and cool. But what was the real highlight for me was the enrichment kind of lettuce feeding device that they were using for the tortoises. So they are sulcata tortoises, which I believe, if I'm right, they are the third largest species of tortoise in the world they can grow to be. So behind the Galapagos and Galapagos and the Aldabra giant tortoises. These are one of the biggest species of tortoise in the world. Um, and they're really like the way that they were feeding them to get them that big and strong was really quite funny and bizarre. So it was like almost like a device. You described it like it was something that like you'd hang socks from to dry
Yeah,
them,
like my
like it was that
gran
kind of
has had one of those things in the past. It's like a little kind of hoop that has tiny little pegs hanging off it, and it's really good for hanging like socks and stuff off of to dry them. So I don't know if that is what it was and it had just been repurposed, or if it was an actual feeding device, just looked very like it. But either way, it was a real creative way to feed these guys in a slightly more interesting way. And I was really glad that we caught that, because by the time we went round the second time, they'd finished eating it, so we wouldn't have known what that was. But because we
Yeah.
went first thing in the morning, they were all munching away, and it was just really funny and really cute to see that.
Yeah, I loved it. I love it. Very, very funny. It did look a bit like Saw Trap esque to me, because I was like, oh, what is this strange like hanging device? But it was actually very cleverly use of maybe repurposing of something else, but maybe a specially designed tortoise feeding device. I'm unsure, but it worked quite well. While we're kind of in that area of the zoo, this is kind of where you come on to the South American animals. We take a break from some of the African species and we look at things like Coati. What are the other ones that they had? They had the armadillos and the agoutis. And while we were, because of the weather, it was a bit colder. Can't blame animals for being inside when it's cold. We didn't get to see the Coati or the agouti yesterday, but I'd seen them previously when I went last summer, and I really like the spaces. They're really unusual species. There's things that you don't see in a lot of zoos, so kind of appreciated that. For people who don't know, the agouti is kind of like a big hamster thing. It's kind of like a rabbit crossed with a hamster. It's an odd thing. It's like almost a rabbit without the ears, which makes it look more like a ham. It's strange. Um, and then of course there's the Coati, which is like it's a small. It almost looks like a raccoon type animal, so it kind of a bit more beigey, kind of browny color. Um, kind of it looks like it has a more extended kind of nosy snouty thing. It's really interesting. I'm probably butchering this. Go and Google a picture and see how accurate my description was. But the one thing we did see yesterday was the armadillos, which always a win. It's six-banded armadillos, I believe they have. As you can probably guess, given our two interviews on Pangolin, the conservation podcast with Arnaud Debier about anteaters and armadillos and things. We're a big fan of South American species here, and so it was nice to see them. I don't know, what were your thoughts on those, Jodi?
Yeah, armadillos are always a winner, aren't they? Because you can pretty much
Mm-hmm.
always count on them to be active, so people will always see them. And they're just really cute and charismatic, and they're always kind of scurrying about. One thing we said when they kind of appeared, we both went, "Oh wow, they're really big." Uh, just I don't know
Yep.
if that's just because the ones that we're more used to seeing at the zoo are kind of smaller, but yeah. And something I would say about that whole space in general is that obviously, I think the way that sort of setup is designed is that it can look like just one space, but because you could walk
Mm-hmm.
sort of round the front and then up and around the back of it, you had all those different animals within this one area, and you might not realize unless you walked all the way around. So it was quite a clever use of the space there. And it's sort of
Mm-hmm.
maybe a bit deceiving at first glance, because you wouldn't realize that there were so many animals in it, and they had kind of indoor and outdoor bits. So yeah, I think the way that they used that space there to get all of those animals in the one sort of, I don't know, complex, if you will, was quite good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a really clever use of space. I think that's what actually looking back, like looking at how they've used space. Obviously, they've kind of developed a smaller area what of the space that they own first, but it's not like they've kind of it doesn't feel like everything's crammed in. It feels like everything is done really cleverly to kind of highlight species that are, yeah, in a way that is clever, interesting, but doesn't feel squashed. It feels like this is a good, clever use of
Yeah,
space to
they're
kind
just
of, yeah,
maximising the space that they do have, which I think's been
yeah.
done well.
Yeah, and I think they do it well with kind of mixed species spaces, like with the agouti and the armadillos and the meerkats and the porcupines. Like it works well to put these different things together. And I think that actually leads really nicely onto the next thing that we kind of walked through, which was the aviary, which I think was really good use of space. Again, you had multiple species. You had I've written down the names of the birds. Let's see how many of these I butcher. I've just written down a few. There was more in there, but we've got shallows Turico. We've got white-faced whistling duck, Von der Decken's hornbill. So all sorts of different things in there, and a good use of again mixed species habitat. Lots of different birds. Really, really interesting. I love the fact that they had an indoor, like, obviously it's an African aviary, which in Scotland, if the weather's not great, the birds aren't necessarily going to be outdoors all the time. And they have an indoor space, which in a lot of places, once the birds go inside, you can't see them. But here was very cleverly done in that they had a big window into the indoor space, so you could see, oh, here are some of the animals that aren't outdoors, which was nice. Um, Birds, I mean, some people hate aviaries and birds, but I just love them. I think they're so beautiful and graceful and fantastic. So I really appreciated that. I don't know, what were your impressions of the aviary?
Yeah, it was nice, and I know that that's kind of one of their newer. And I get what you're saying. Like some people don't like an aviary because maybe they don't like the birds kind of flying around them. But the birds in here were very chill. So nothing too scary as you're walking through if you're not the biggest bird fan. I think I really liked the space. I loved those little ducks. They were so adorable. Loved them. They were probably my favourites as we went through there, just sitting next to their little pond. One thing I would have maybe liked in that space was like some signage to tell you about the birds that were in there. Because I didn't really spot any as we went through. It might just be because it is new, so maybe the signage is coming because they have the signs on every other enclosure. But that just would have been handy, especially in a space like that, because people tend to overlook birds and they'll go, oh, it's just a bird. I
Mhm.
think signage is really important in something like an aviary to make sure that people really appreciate what they're seeing.
Mhm. I Yes, actually, yeah, that's a very good point, actually, and fair, I think. And yeah, would be helpful. Even just small signs to kind of, even if it's just a spotter's guide with a couple basic facts, I think would be nice to have. Um, and yeah, I really appreciate that. Um, it also, yeah, yeah, fair point. I don't know if I have much to say more about the aviary. I just kind of I really appreciate birds, especially those ducks that were just kind of chilling by the little pond area. Very, very cute.
Love them. Always
They
love
have
a
just the
duck,
sweetest
but
little
those
faces.
ones were especially cute.
Yep. hmm so yeah, I really enjoyed that. When you come out of there, there's a couple things left to see. We've got the lemurs and then the zebras. So if we talk about the lemurs first, I think that was fantastic, and I think shows the benefit of walking around a place more than once. Because when we first went to look at the lemurs, they have this huge walkthrough. Like it's probably one of the biggest lemur walkthrough for a small zoo. It's one of the biggest lemur walkthroughs I think I've ever been through.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Um, yeah, and it has a huge number of animals in it. But the first time we went through, they were all inside, so you didn't necessarily see them. Whereas gave it half an hour, went back, walked around. They were all outside, jumping around. They're some of the most active lemurs I think I've ever seen in my life. Looked so happy, looked so excited to be there, weren't afraid of people. They were up kind of walking about. You felt like you were in their space. It didn't feel like you were walking into a space in which they felt nervous and scared. You walked into a space and it was their space. You were a guest there, and as long as you respected them, they were happy and they kind of walked through, which I really appreciated. And yeah, a huge space, great number of lemurs. They were ring-tailed lemurs, which are a favorite, I think, for all. And yeah, again, a great space, and huge. I feel like you could easily kind of build maybe a little bit bigger of an indoor space, and add another species of lemur there, or another two or three or four, compared to some other zoos which I've seen for their outdoor lemur spaces. So, yeah, really good, really good. Um, what did you think, Jodie? What was
Yeah,
your
I mean, I
impressions?
don't have much different to say from you there. Just yeah, I also thought that it was a really good size. And yeah, just love them. Don't really have much sort of intelligent to say about this. I was just like, I just love that. There's just something magical about something like a walkthrough where you can walk round and the animals are right there. And you're right, like there is always the
Mhm.
worry that because you know what people are like, that they won't be respectful and they'll be there trying to like feed them and touch them and shove their phones in their faces. But I feel like there was none of that because I very much feel like you were in their space. People were kind of stopping and being still and being quiet, and the lemurs were the ones that were just all kind of running around, and yeah, they just seemed really happy. And there were, I agree, a lot more of them than I thought because looking in their indoor space, I think some of them must have been at the back when we first looked because we maybe only saw one or two lemurs, and then when we saw them all outside,
Mhm.
it was like I lost count. Well, you couldn't count them because they didn't stay still long enough, but there just seemed to be so many, and it was just a really nice experience. And then after we'd done the
Mhm.
walkthrough, they'd all gone back inside by that point. So we went to have a look at them in the indoor house, and they were all just kind of cuddled up together, and it was just really sweet. And I feel like lemurs, we're always like, oh, they're like the meerkats in that they're a bit of a basic animal, and we tend to try to highlight the more underappreciated ones. But no, on an experience like that, you can see why lemurs are a favorite, and I can't deny that I love them as well.
Hmm. Yeah. And yes, I think if you're looking to learn more about lemurs, I'm going to plug the Land of the Lemurs podcast that I did with hundreds of different organizations all about lemurs. Go back and have a look through your podcast feeds for pangolin. They're all there if you want to learn more about them and the threats that they face, because they're extremely important, incredible animals. Alongside the fact that they are very satisfying to look at in zoos and in zoos. I was about to say zoos and aquariums, but no. If you put a lemur in an aquarium, there's a serious problem. Um, but yes, and so yes, that kind of brings us on to the final point, which was the zebras. So the Grevy zebras. Um, and yes, I've written down, I copied a little thing from their website, which I think is interesting and important to highlight, which I don't think a lot of people know about zebras, is the fact that they are classified as endangered by the IUCN. Um, so this is because of habitat loss and fragmentation, drought, poaching, and potential competition with livestock. As the species' habitat declines, the zebra must roam over larger and larger areas in search of food and water. Historically, Grevy zebra have also been hunted for their meat and attractive skins, which are used to make consumer items such as coats, rugs, and bags. And so I think that's an important thing to highlight, because I think it's an animal that, like the lemurs and the meerkats and all these things, is very popular, but something to remember when you're looking at all of these animals, there is a purpose to having them in zoos, to protect them, because they are endangered species. No matter how popular, being popular does not save you from being endangered. And so something to highlight, even with these kind of popular animals like zebra, is that there are these threats underlying. And so it's nice that they have a bigger, larger species like zebra to highlight this kind of point, to kind of help educate people, and kind of show them off. The one thing I'd say about the zebra is that it would be nice to get closer. However, on the website, they do warn that because they're under development, you can't get right up to the fence and things yet. So you kind of are warned on the website in advance of buying your tickets and things, like you can't get right up close. But and in the future, it would be nice to be able to see the full path and going up to them. But the way they are now, you still get a kind of view of them from a distance, which is nice. I don't know. Did you have thoughts on zebras?
Yeah, just the same, that it would be nice to be able to get a little bit closer. I understand why you can. But yeah, just because if you are a small zoo, you want to really maximize the viewing areas of the animals that you do have. So because they were, the first time we went round, they were kind of up the back of their enclosure, so they were quite far away. Second time we came out of the lemurs and they were kind of right up at the fence. We did sort of see them, but especially because they are, I mean, it's like the biggest animal that they have there as well. So it would be nice, as soon as they are able, to have some kind of path up to those guys so that you can see them a bit closer. And I guess, yeah, the only other thing to mention maybe is that I think at least one of them came from Edinburgh Zoo, right?
Yes, there was quite, yeah, a couple of them I think came. Um and I think, yeah, they're all males, which is quite fun and interesting to see the partnerships between different zoos within Scotland, and kind of,
Yeah,
yeah, see how these animals move around and
yeah, well,
things.
that's why I
Yeah.
kind of brought it up, because a lot of the time people are a bit like, where do your animals come from? And it's like, well, we don't just, pluck them out of thin air. Quite often they will come from other collections, especially when you've got endangered species. They might be part of like an endangered species breeding program. So they'll be organized in such a way as to maximize breeding potential and help to keep that species alive. So yeah, just thought that was a nice little thing. But yeah, I think that's my thoughts on the zebra.
Yes, yeah. I think that's kind of the final animal that they have. And I think overall it's a really nice collection of kind of things that you've never seen anywhere else, and popular animals and kind of interesting things. So yes, really good use of space. Really appreciated it. Excellent, excellent thing. And excellent collection of different things. Um Before we wrap up though, there are other elements to the zoo. Of course, there's the cafe, the gift shop. We want to talk a little bit about ticket price as well, and a little bit about theming. And I think if I start, first thing to highlight, theming, excellent. Signage, excellent. All of the signage is like almost like text page biz out of an old book. So it's kind of very interestingly designed, has the kind of facts about them, but as well as the kind of its status of them, if they're endangered, all sorts of stuff. Excellent signage, which goes hand in hand and fits perfectly with the theming, which I'd also already kind of talked about, but really appreciated that kind of, yeah, the whole vibe of the theming and this kind of use of wood and kind of brick and kind of oranges, browns, earthy colors. really, really great.
Yeah, it was
Really,
very
really
cohesive, wasn't it? Like
aesthetically
it
pleasing.
went throughout the whole zoo, and
Yeah.
we said that when we went into the cafe that they had sort of these nice painting kind of mural things on the wall of like giraffe and zebra,
Mm.
um. So that was really nice, and yeah, it just felt like it filtered throughout the whole zoo, which was a nice touch.
Yes, yes. And I think the good thing kind of you've led me on to is the cafe, is that it was fantastic as well. The the food, we didn't have any food, but the drinks that we had, coffees, hot chocolates, lovely. The staff were so friendly. The aesthetic, I think, is actually so it's African themed. Um, and I think when you're using kind of zebra print and giraffe print fabrics, it can go so tacky and so bad so quickly. But here it was so well done. Like I didn't have there was nothing wrong with it. It was actually really nice, really well kind of presented. Um really just yeah, really, really nice. They had the nice kind of decals on the wall of the giraffes, zebras, kind of I think there was a hornbill, the kind of really nice. And I think the piece de resistance, which kind of ties the whole thing together, is there's a big TV screen that kind of live streams to an African kind of savannah area, which was really cool because you get to see kind of different animals in situ as well as kind of in a zoo. So you kind of see the kind of connection to the wild there, which is really nice. Like we saw a giraffe. I thought I saw a crocodile, but it was a log. So yeah, it was really nice cafe as well. I don't know, and reasonably priced, which I think sometimes you go to attractions and they can be really really expensive, but yeah, this was actually really really nicely done.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did you have any more thoughts
the
on? Yeah.
cafe was one of my highlights as well, just because I think in these places you can, similarly to the toilets, you kind of expect a certain standard. You're not thinking it's going to be amazing,
Mhm.
it's just going to get the job done. I thought the cafe was really nice, it was really warm and inviting, and it smelled lovely when you walked in. Like, that was kind of the first thing I noticed when we walked into the was that smell coming from the cafe, and I thought, oh, we'll need to go and get a hot drink later. And it had fairy lights up, and it was just really nice and chill. We did go on quite a quiet morning. I feel like because it's not a massive cafe, it might be kind of crazy if it was busy. But they did have a lot of outdoor seating space as well, which I would highlight because they had
Mhm.
outdoor tables around the cafe. And then when you went into the zoo, they had quite a few big picnic benches as well. So I feel like in the summertime,
Mhm.
they're making good use of their outdoor seating space. And yeah, it was just a really nice, chill place to just sit and have a coffee. They had a little play park outside, so if you were going with kids, you could sit and have a coffee while they were out playing. And yeah, I just think it was a nice touch. And I feel like if you're in a small place, having a nice, inviting cafe is another clever move because then that's another way that people are going to spend a little bit of extra time there. So yeah, I really liked the
Mhm.
cafe.
Mhm. It was really, really good. Really, yeah, excellent, excellent. 10 out of 10. And I think another point to highlight is out the front of the zoo. There's a little play park. So say you were kind of had walked around with your kids, and wanted to have a coffee. There looks like there's a little play park right outside, so you can just let the kids go, run around, give them an extra half an hour of burning off energy, and let them go, which was really, really nice as well. Um, I guess that kind of is all the things I kind of wanted to highlight. Well, there was the gift shop as well, which has the standard kind of stuff, stuffed toys and notebooks and playmobiles and all sorts of things, but was really good. Kind of and lots of books, which actually I really liked.
Yeah,
Lots and lots of
that was
books,
my
which
note
was good.
about the shop as well. There was a lot of books. I always appreciate when a gift shop has something like books rather than just like the standard wall of stuffed toys. But yeah, they had a
Yeah.
lot of books. So yeah, that was from the bookworm here. That was a gold star. I loved that.
Yeah. It was really, really good. Really, really good. Um, and yeah, that kind of brings us to the last point, which of course is ticket price, which it's £5. So if you thought this whole time, oh, I wonder how much this is because it sounds kind of small or this, that, or the next thing, £5. You can't complain at £5. Like you could like that is enough for like you would buy a coffee in some coffee shops and pay almost £5. Like, and so you're getting to go support conservation, wander around, see incredible animals for £5. It's an absolute bargain, an absolute steal. And yes, it doesn't fill a whole day, but that doesn't really matter because you're paying £5. It's not like it's a very good deal for what you're getting. Considering some zoos you'd pay 4 or 5, like 5 times that much, sometimes more, depending on where you go. Like it's yeah, an absolute steal for £5, I would say. And yeah, there's other things to do in Fife. I think our next ReZOO, which will be coming out in a few weeks' time, is going to be all about the Scottish Deer Centre, which is nearby. So you could even do both of those in one day, perhaps. Like all sorts of like so if you're looking to fill a full day, this is a nice like morning activity or afternoon activity for a fiver. Very cheap, very doable. Yeah, 10 like can't complain about the price at all. What did you think? Yeah.
Yeah, just much the same, really. That I think you have to manage your expectations, because if you think you're going in for a full day, you will not be. And also, if you're the kind of person who walks up to an enclosure, takes one look, and then just moves on, you're going to be round it very, very quickly. But obviously, we were
Mhm.
there. You had your camera. We were sort of taking photos and just broke it up with a coffee in the middle, and then went round again. So I think as long as you know what to expect, you know that it is a small zoo that is under development. So you're managing your expectations there, but for £5, I mean, I was very satisfied for £5 for going in and spending a couple of hours and having a nice coffee and just having a nice kind of chilled out morning. So yeah, I feel like £5, you
Mm.
can't complain. People will because we know the general public, but really you can't for a fiver.
Yep. Perfect. Perfect. And that kind of, yeah, brings us on to our final sections, which are, of course, our 2 stars and a wish. And if we could sum it up in one word. So, um, Jodie, for you, what are your 2 stars and a wish?
My 2 stars and a wish. I feel like one of my stars maybe be the lemur walkthrough. Just because
Hmm.
it's been so long since I've been through any kind of walkthrough because of COVID. Like the ones that we have at the zoo have been closed for like 2 years. You kind of forget how magical it is to be able to go through and like see the animals so close up and be in their
Hmm.
habitat there. So I really, really liked the little walkthrough, and it was obviously a bonus that they were actually out the second time we went round. So that would be one of my stars. Second star, I feel like my second star has to go to the cafe because I just loved it. And I feel like normally I reserve my stars for something to do with the animals or whatever, but I just really liked their cafe. It was a really nice touch. Yeah, just the whole cafe experience. I was appreciating that on a kind of cold and cloudy Saturday morning. And my wish, what would my wish be? Yeah, I guess I feel like my wish would just be about the zebra. I wish that you could get a little bit closer to them. I understand why you can't, as we've discussed. Um, but yeah, I wish that we could get a little bit closer, and hopefully, as soon as we are able to, that will be something that will be put in place.
Yes, yes, couldn't agree more. I think my two, yeah, I think that's a fair kind of thing, and I think yeah, they're a developing zoo, so it's natural you can't do it all immediately right away. But yes, when they do open that up, I will be the first one back to be like, oh, look, there it is. We can actually get a little bit closer. Um, I guess for me, my 2 stars. I suppose I really, really appreciate the lemurs, but I'm gonna switch. And I'll not pick the same as you. I'm gonna say porcupines. I've never seen porcupines so active, so it was really nice to see them up and about and in a really interesting kind of diverse space that had a lot of things for them to kind of dig around in, kind of climb over, explore. Really enjoyed those. Um, Second star, I think, would be I really like the ducks. I like of all the animals, the hornbills and all these bright colors and things. The white faced whistling ducks, love them, love them. So maybe the aviary as a whole, but with specific mention to those ducks. Excellent use of space, excellent mixed kind of habitat, which I really appreciated and really enjoyed. And then finally, I suppose my wish would be it's a hard one because it's like while it's small, it is impeccably like done in a lot of ways. So
Yeah, and anything that
wish,
would
wish,
be a
wish, wish,
wish,
wish.
like you kind of understand why it isn't, why it is the way it is or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of hard to pin down.
Yeah, I guess I wish. Um, I'll probably agree and just say I wish that um the that we could have gotten a little closer to the zebras, but of course we understand why that was the case. So it's kind of a half-hearted wish because really there's no like it really like I think leads nicely into the discussion about one word because we kind of had discussed this previously about what maybe we would want the one word for us each of us to be um and we kind of discussed the idea of potential because the the word being potential I think sums it up perfectly and that there's it's all there, the foundations have been laid in a really strong way and it's going to be so exciting to see how it develops, whether it is just a path out to see some zebras as well as or something far beyond that and see all the other species maybe they get in at some point. Their website says they hope to get Asian animals soon, so that would be exciting. So yeah, that's kind of I think my word would be potential and that sort of thing. I don't know. Did you have a different word? Do you want to agree with
Yeah,
potential?
potential would be my word as well. Like, what is there is nice for a fiver, but I am also very excited to see where it goes because I do think they have so much potential. You know, they've got the space for building. So yeah, just I feel like it's very much a zoo in progress. So it's like watch this space for what's coming
Yeah.
up next.
Yes, yes. And of course, you can follow that progress and all of their work at Fife Zoo on social media. They've got really good and active social channels. Visit them if you can, support the project, and kind of, yeah, I think make sure you go and you kind of experience this and kind of see the potential that we have seen, and see it and help it develop and support it because it's such a nice, good family run kind of, yeah, adventure, which I think it should be supported and is doing good conservation work. So really appreciate all of that and could not recommend it more. Um, I guess that brings us to the end. We did say we were going to try and make this shorter because it was kind of a shorter experience, but we've still talked for 40 minutes. So we should probably wrap up relatively swiftly. Before we do that, though, of course, you can follow us on social media at Pangolin Podcast. Um, we're on my mind went blank there. We're on all sorts of things. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin Podcast. You can also subscribe to Pangolin the Conservation Podcast and ReZOO by following us on your streaming service of choice, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you're listening. Just hit follow or subscribe or whatever the button says wherever you are, and make sure to subscribe to us there so you don't miss out on any future episodes of Pangolin, the Conservation Podcast, or ReZOO. Um, and yes, as I said last time, as I said during this review, our next review will become ReZOO will be coming very soon of the Scottish Deer Centre, so make sure and look out for that as well. I guess that kind of brings us to the end for today. I don't know if you had any closing words or thoughts, Jodi, or if we should just say bye. Anything, any last minute words of wisdom?
Oh, you do this to me every time at the end. You're like, do you have a final word of wisdom? And I'm like, no, I have no wisdom. Um, no, just really nice to,
No?
if you're in that area of Fife, swing by and spend a couple hours there because I'm sure they'd appreciate it after, COVID and their fire and all the building work that's to go on. It's a worthy cause. So swing by and give those guys
Yes.
some support.
Yes, perfect. Well, on that note, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining me once again, Jodi. And of course, until next time, goodbye.